Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Poole, and I will be team teaching the Responsive Leadership, the Educational Leadership 652 class with Dr. Scott Werninger. Scott and I are bummed that we didn't get a chance to meet with you in person this past Saturday, but nothing that we can't make up as we go along. So just wanted to kind of go over the syllabus, since that's something that we would normally do in the first class period. Make sure that you at least can hear what the intent is with the assignments and kind of go forward from there. So if you've got a copy of the syllabus in front of you, great. If not, maybe pause the video, pull it up, and that way we can go through it step by step. So I am currently a graduate intern. I'm in the doctoral program here at Mankato. I work for Minnesota State Mankato and the leadership, our extended education department, which is located at the Normandale campus in Bloomington. And so I spent a lot of time up in the Edina location, both for class and doing my work. So if you need me, I'm usually around in Edina, and I know Scott, of course, is located down in Mankato. Our phone numbers are there. You've got my cell phone too. So if you need anything, please just communicate. Make sure you feel free to send a text, a call, shoot me an email, and we'll get everything taken care of. So the first thing on there is just the special accommodations. I want to make sure that we get those taken care of up front. So if there's anything that we can do to assist your learning, if there's anything that you've got as far as documented disabilities or things that you think might help you learn better, please feel free to reach out to us earlier rather than later, so that we can make sure we get everything taken care of at the front of the semester. The next thing is the diversity. The entire Ed Leadership program is focused on diversity and has an equity lens, equity and inclusion. And so I recently completed my master's work in the Ed Leadership program and know just how important those tenets are to everything going forward. And so we want to make sure we create a respectful classroom that enables everybody to kind of share their truth and hear others tell their stories as well. With that said, of course, I'm always learning, Scott's always learning, and so if anything's said in class that makes you feel uncomfortable, that you feel needs to be addressed, and maybe you don't feel comfortable doing so during the class period, please reach out to us. Again, the earlier the better. We want to make sure we get that addressed and take care of anything that might come up, because from time to time, especially in the case studies, there are some sensitive subjects, and we want to make sure that that everybody has an opportunity to learn in a comfortable way. The Ed Leadership mission, again, we've talked about that a little bit here, but Ed Leadership is dedicated to the study of the intersectionalities among race, cultural responsiveness, and social justice. We prepare racially, ethically conscious leaders who are resolute in serving all learners in a broad spectrum of educational settings. So the beauty of this program is that it's not just K-12 learners, it's not just higher ed learners. We've got people that are pre-K, we've got folks that are from private industry. There's all sorts of people that are in this program. And so we all bring a different set of truths to the table. We all bring a different set of experiences to the table, and really that's what this whole point of this course and other courses are. I mean, the point is that we want to make sure that we all can share these experiences. We want to make it relevant. We want it to apply to your everyday work, to your everyday life. And so going forward, any assignments we do should have an element that you can take home with you and apply directly to your work, which is why I like to rely heavily on the case study method, which is something that we'll get to as we go forward. So the course itself is called Responsive Leadership, and so again, the goal is to introduce you to as many of the different leadership principles, theories that we can get in front of you in the short time that we have, which has now been shortened even more. And so that's the goal from the onset. And through that, I think you'll find that there's quite a bit of crossover between the leadership theories, and that nobody probably lives in one leadership box, but instead crosses into different theories, different modalities, and that probably makes a more complete leader. So hopefully you find something in there that you can relate to and use some of the tools that are given for that kind of leadership style to further build your own leadership. The textbooks, there's two. There's this lovely one, Leadership by Northhouse. It's the 8th edition already, so if you have a chance, pick up the 8th just so that the pages match and the case studies match if we go over them. And then the second one is Leadership Case Studies in Education, also by Northhouse and Lee. I know a couple folks had reached out to me saying that they're having a hard time getting their hands on this one. It is $10 for the Kindle version on Amazon. I do know that limits your ability to, of course, use financial aid, and I want to make sure that everybody has access. So if you don't have access and you can't get access, please reach out to me before we start picking our case studies. We'll push the case study picking up until the next class period. So I know we had scheduled to have a few presentations next time, but clearly that's not going to happen since we didn't get together. So don't worry about it. Not a big deal. We'll get that picked up as we go along. So if you can't get a copy of the physical book, if for some reason you can't get the Kindle book, please let me know. I also do have an extra copy of this, and so I can lend that out next class period to those folks in Edina, and hopefully we can stagger it so that if multiple people happen to need a copy of it, we can ensure that everybody gets one for those following 3 weeks worth of presentations. So we kind of glossed over the days that we have, but we do still have 3 more class periods. There's the February 8th, February 29th, March 28th, and April 25th, and then the class goes from 1 to 4 p.m. The way that I kind of envision the classes going is I want everybody to be there at 1 o'clock sharp. It's super, super important to me because I don't want to be there until 4 o'clock, if at all possible. So the sooner everybody gets in the room, the sooner we start, the sooner we get going. I hope to start every class period with a short grounding. And then after that, what I'm going to do is we're hosting an AMA, which stands for Ask Me Anything, with 4 different educational leaders. So the first class period, we have Dr. Joyce Esters, who is the president at Normandale Community College. On the 29th, we will have Dr. Bobby Anderson, who is the associate provost at Metro State. And then we will have a principal from Edina that's coming to speak with us she'll actually be there for the April class period. And then the March class period, I've found a superintendent from a rural school out in South Dakota, where my dad actually teaches, who will help us kind of understand the very small school perspective on what leadership looks like in a school. So the goal with each of these, and especially for the next class, is please come prepared. Be there right away, because those are scheduled to start at 1:15 during each of the class periods. And what I want you to do is just everybody bring 1 or 2 really good questions that you might have for an educational leader. And so whether it's about budget, managing people, how they got to their position, whatever it might be, we're shooting for about a half hour to 45 minutes with each of these leaders. And so if we have well-developed questions, that would be super helpful. And the goal, of course, is to try to get everybody. But I also know that, there may be difficult for someone that's a 3rd grade teacher to know exactly what to ask a president of a community college. That's fine. The higher ed folks hopefully will have some additional things. And likewise, it might be difficult for somebody who's a higher ed professional to know exactly what to ask elementary principal. So, but in general, everybody should be able to come up with a couple questions that you would have for an educational leader. And I'd like you to bring those with you because we will have our first leader. She'll actually be there in person on the 8th. So please be ready for that. We'll buzz through those, and then from there, we will launch into our presentations, which I'll talk to you about here in a minute. And then at the end, just kind of do a short wrap-up, make sure that we fully understand everything that we read and we went over, answer any questions, maybe do a short activity. I don't envision any of the classes going until 4 o'clock, as long as everybody comes prepared and ready to rock and roll. So as far as the next step of the syllabus, it looks like attendance. Attendance is attendance. There's only 5 class periods. The point of the class and the point of the program is participation. It's to really fully immerse yourself in the discussion and to get the most out of the classroom experience as you possibly can. I know that it's not going to be possible for everybody to be at every single class, but I'm also mindful that we've already missed 1 of 5. And so if you're missing 2 of 5 or 3 of 5 or 4 of 5, then we probably need to discuss about options for continuing your enrollment. So a few folks have reached out to me about missing 1 additional class. Not a big deal. Of course, we're at the mercy of Mother Nature, so who knows, maybe we miss another one. And if we do, we may still have some sort of activity during that scheduled time. 3 of the Ask Me Anythings were going to be over Zoom anyway, so maybe we could all log in together and do that, but we'll worry about that if that happens. I don't want to jinx us with the weather talk now by coming up with plan B already. But anyway, if you're going to miss class, please just communicate. Don't just disappear, and also don't ask for forgiveness. If you're going to be gone, you're going to be gone. It's fine. Let's just talk about what we need to do to make sure that you get the most out of the class when you are there. There are going to be some additional readings and listenings or watchings. I'm going to upload some stuff into the D2L page, and there's going to be a couple different D2L message board posts that are graded. I will offer 2 or 3 options each time. Of course, the goal would be that you would watch, listen, read all of them. But really, if you flip through them and there's one that speaks to you more than others, that's the one that I need you to go ahead and dig a little deeper into, and that'll probably be the one that we have you post about. I will give you some prompts for the post so you're not just straight reacting. And then, of course, when you reply, if we could do more than just say, hey, I agree, or great post, that would be helpful if you can add something to the conversation. Again, we're all adults. I don't need to dictate how many words you write in a post, but I do hope that you at least engage and that you find useful tools. Also, if you have something that you want to share, maybe you read something in a newspaper or professional journal and you're like, wow, this kind of speaks to what we're learning, share it. By all means, I can stick that on the D2L page for folks to look at too. Again, this class is about building your leadership skills and sharing your leadership experience with other people. So the next one's participation. We kind of already talked about this. Show up, be present, be prepared, and everything will go just fine. So if you have an opportunity to be there and be in a classroom full of fellow learners and fellow experts who bring things to the table, take full advantage of it. Ask the questions you want to ask, get what you need to get out of it. I know the afternoon classes are tough. I remember sitting through the 8 to noons and then desperately trying to fight off the afternoon post-lunch sleepiness, but this is going to be a pretty fast moving class, and so be there and be present and add something to the discussion. As far as plagiarism goes, I really don't think that anyone in a graduate program in educational leadership is intentionally going to try to plagiarize anything. If anything pops up as an attempt as plagiarism through Turnitin, it's going to get sent back to you with a note that says, hey, let's take a look at this and how do we fix it to make sure that it's not plagiarism, because it's something you need to know as you go forward to write your final papers and do your final projects. I want to make sure that you at least understand the basics of APA. This is not an APA research writing heavy class, but if you do cite something, it's important that you cite it correctly. And so I'll help you as much as I can with that, and Scott can help you with that as much as possible too. If it becomes, a recurring theme, or I get an assignment that's word for word a chapter of the book, okay, then we probably have an issue. But by and large, I don't anticipate that this is going to be a huge issue. That goes to the quality of written work. So there's 2 written assignments that are due. Both of the large written assignments are pieces about you or about someone that you know. Again, not research-based. They may require you to quote some of the theories or apply some of the things that you've learned in class, and in that case, I would ask that you cite what you're applying. But for the most part, it's about you. So that makes it incredibly hard to both plagiarize and write poorly, because there's nobody that knows this particular subject better than yourself. So there are a couple things there. There's the Purdue APA style guide. We did just update to a new volume, or the 7th edition of APA guidelines. It's incredibly hard to get your hands on a copy of that. But APA, just use the Purdue website to kind of guide you through creating in-text citation should you find it. Again, I'm not asking for a minimum of 3 citations or 5 citations or 10 citations. If you cite something, if you refer to a theory, please make sure that you include that citation, and you'll be just fine. And then Grammarly, if you haven't downloaded Grammarly yet on your computer, I would encourage you to do so. It checks everything you write, looks for spelling errors, for context errors, for any sort of grammar issues. And so, of course, it doesn't always understand what you're saying. And so sometimes you have to do the old right-click ignore. But for the most part, I find it to be one of the most valuable tools that that we have out there to help you make sure that your grammar's in line. So next up, we've got the assignments, and I know this is probably the most important part. So really, we've got a total of 100 points throughout the semester. The first thing will be the online posts. So there's 4 posts, and I put each of the posts is worth 10 points, and you'll see the dates that those are due. Again, watch the material or watch the included extra material or read it, listen to it, whatever it might be, and then react based on the prompt that's going to be in D2L. If you don't know how to use D2L, please contact me as soon as possible so we can get you through that. If you can't access your school email, make sure you do that. We figure that out as soon as possible too, because D2L kicks you constant reminders of when things are due, if someone posts, if someone replies to your post, things like that are important and will make this class so much easier. So if you have any technology questions, let's get those out front and get everything taken care of. So your initial post is going to be worth 7 points. The due date there is the date in which I hope that you have that we'll have our last part of the discussion. So if at all possible, if you've got something due February 1st, which you do, please don't post your initial post February 1st. If you can post that a couple days ahead, give people a chance to read it and reply, that is super helpful. The discussions will be open fairly early, so please just go in and get them done. And then you can get an additional 3 points for a response to a classmate's post. I will post a rubric for these, but just use common sense. Post thoughtfully to go around the first time, and then really read someone's response, and maybe give them some questions to think about, or at least acknowledge in your post something that you either agree, disagree, or realize based on things that they wrote. The next one is the leadership role model paper. And so this one's worth 20 points. It's due February 8th. It's a 3 to 5 page paper, and there's probably not going to be as much theory behind this particular paper unless you've done a little cheating and read ahead. Instead, what I want you to do is I want you to identify a role model in your life. So either someone that has been a supervisor, a coworker, maybe even somebody that reports to you, that you think has excellent leadership skills and abilities. Now, you can do it in a couple ways. If it's somebody that you're around frequently, feel free to see if you can sit down with them and ask them some questions, pick their mind for things that they think are valuable. If not, then go ahead and just write about what makes them a great leader. Tell us a little bit about how you met this leader, ways that you've seen them shine, things that you think maybe they could have done a little bit different or better. Again, I'll get a rubric up for this, which you can use to help kind of guide your writing for this particular assignment. But again, it's only 3 to 5 pages. It doesn't need a cover page. If you do cite anything, sure, stick the references on the end. But just tell us who inspires you. Who is a leader that is somebody that you really have looked up to and you think has made you better as a worker, as a person. Maybe it's not even somebody at work, but identify that leader and tell us a little bit about them. Again, if you have questions about that assignment, please reach out to me and we can discuss that. The case study presentations, I'm not going to go over them now because we're going to go over those on February 8th in detail. I wouldn't make you do a Pecha Kucha unless I showed you an example of it because it sounds really kind of odd and it's hard to fully grasp, but it's an incredibly effective way to do a presentation that relies little on text in PowerPoint. So it's a 6-minute presentation. I'm fine if we pre-record those. I'm fine if you want to do them live, but it's going to be based around a case study. So that's the important thing is if you've got this book, flip through there. They are all broken up and attached directly to chapters in this book. And so the leadership styles in here are reflected in here. So also look at the dates. If you know you're going to be gone a day, try to find a chapter that doesn't directly correlate with the date that those are going to be due. And then there are some case studies also included in this book. So if you find one in here that you think is a better representation of what you want to learn, by all means, roll with that. And again, we'll talk on the 8th about what that presentation looks like, what all it needs to entail. It's not that hard, but I really do feel like examining case studies and looking at real problems from the world of education through a leadership lens is probably the most effective way to learn. So. And then finally is the personal leadership essay. Now this one's going to be a little bit bigger. I do expect that there's going to probably be references here. And I do want you to put a cover page on there and try to follow that APA style as much as possible. The other reason that I really want these to, be a little bit shiny with the leadership essay and the personal role model one is that these are also great artifacts to put in your portfolio. I don't know if anybody's talked to you yet about portfolios, but portfolios, at the end of your program, you have to put together a portfolio, and I will include my portfolio in D2L so you can see what that looks like. But I somehow missed that I needed to be collecting all of these artifacts, and so these leadership papers are great artifacts that you can stick in there to show part of your learning and how you how you learned and what you learned and picked up along the way. So this one's a 5 to 7 page paper, and this one should be written about you. And so where did you come from? What's your background? Who were leaders that impacted you and shaped you? What leadership opportunities have you had? Are there leadership opportunities you want? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? I will provide you a lot of different leadership tools and surveys, things like that. Take that information, include it in your final paper on you. So again, the paper is about you. I fully expect that you know you and that you're going to be able to communicate to me and to Scott about how what leadership looks like in your life and how the kind of leader you are and the kind of leader you aspire to be. If you look at the course evaluation below, it shows you the A to B minus. I really don't expect to see anybody drop below an A. That's not my goal in this class. I'm not here to wreck anybody's GPA or make your lives miserable. I really think the assignments are all easily digestible. They're all fairly straightforward, and they're really all about you. They're about your interpretation of the leadership world, about the educational world, about what equity and inclusion and diversity look like in education for you. And so yeah, that's what we're going to be studying, is you and your leadership abilities and capabilities and your opportunities going forward. So I did post, the schedule is going to have to be updated a little bit because, of course, we did miss a day, but we'll get that updated as we go. So anyway, the big thing is, if you have questions, please reach out to me. If you email me, I'm usually pretty good about getting back to you, especially if it's during the workday, within 5-10 minutes. If you text me or call me, of course, you'll get me too. So, and the same goes for Scott. Scott has been kind enough in my internship experience as I try to grow as a potential faculty member to allow me to kind of run with the class and then to step in and guide as needed to make sure that we're all on track and that you are all getting what you signed up for and paid for, and that I'm also having the opportunity to be a leader in the classroom. And so by all means, feel free to go to Scott with any questions, concerns that you have as well. Again, his contact information is up top. So it's going to be a fun semester. I really hope you guys enjoy getting to meet real educational leaders in positions that maybe we all aspire to. I hope that we all have an opportunity to learn from one another, and I hope I'm really looking forward to reading your papers and learning something about you. I'm going to add an additional D2L post just to do an introduction. It's not graded. I don't, if you respond to somebody else, terrific. If you don't, that's fine too. If you want to write it, great. If you want to record it on your phone and upload it and do a 2-minute video, this is me, that's fine too. But basically just kind of tell me who you are, where you're at in the program, where you're at in your career currently, and maybe what you aspire to be. And then also include, I had asked that you do an educational survey or a leadership survey, and I will resend that link out to make sure you got it. It was in my initial email, and I'll also post it in the D2L post. But maybe just quick discussion about the results that you found in that. Yeah, and if you can do that, again, it can be short, but I just kind of want to know who the class is before we get there. There's currently 16 folks enrolled, and we are across both Mankato and Edina. And so the more we can learn about each other on the front end, especially with our new Titan schedule, the quicker we can hit the road running. So again, thank you for listening to what is becoming a 25-minute video. I apologize, and I appreciate you hanging in there, but hopefully you enjoyed your Saturday off and you stayed warm and you stayed safe. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out. Otherwise, I will see you on February 8th.